Welcome back to another car garage video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the new intro. I made it today, so it makes the channel look a little bit more professional. I'll add more to it as I get more footage of this car eventually when I'm out and about. I'm going to cover some laws in Australia today about exhaust noise, and I'll show you what I've done to shut my car up to pass a defect notice I got. So we'll be right back. Right, so not a whole lot has happened with the car lately because of this, and I've had an issue with my clutch slave cylinder, which I'll cover in a moment. But a recent upgrade I did, which I needed to do, was get a new battery, because the battery that was in the car, which is this one over here, the yellow and blue guy that you've seen, this was the original battery I bought when I first bought the car, and that's got a CCA rating of 540, and it's actually smaller than it should be for a 2JZ GTE. It did work, no problems over the years, but it just got old and is due, and it dropped a cell and it's due to be replaced. So I replaced it with the correct size battery, which is a fair whack bigger, and this one is a 720 cold cranking amps, and it's much better on startup. However, to get this one to fit, I had to swap the terminals over to get it fit correctly. So I had to extend some cable here for my sound system and all that, and I had to move my circuit breaker for the amplifier of my subwoofer, which is open at the moment as when I was installing it. I might just close that really quickly. Stand by. Where are we? There we go. Yeah, but a much better battery. It is a lot heavier. I was going to get a deep cycle battery. However, nowadays they don't cover deep cycle batteries under warranty if they are installed in your engine bay, which is unfortunate. So yeah, I had an issue with my slave cylinder because it was a prototype sort of slave cylinder for this T56 conversion. I believe it was an ACE slave cylinder, and there was a few of them, from my understanding, with a common issue where an O-ring failed from the supplier, and when that happened, it was a weird way that it failed, actually. The car was fine before Christmas. I drove it around, and just after I'd left it parked and overnight, and the next morning I went in to drive it and put my foot on the clutch pedal, and it just went whack to the floor, and I had no clutch. And so I got out, had a look, and there was a puddle of brake fluid under the gearbox. And the master cylinder was empty. So I called the guys at Melwood, which are awesome. They covered it under warranty, which was really, really great, and they modified a slave cylinder and gave me a new one to make it work perfectly, and now the clutch feels better than it ever has. Yeah, so I had to do that. I've also recently detailed the car a couple of days ago. I'm thinking about giving it a polish again. I waxed the headlights lenses so they look very nice and shiny. Also the bonnet and roof. I haven't waxed the rest of the car because it's not worth doing it without giving it the polish first. I'll just give it a really light liquid polish, and hopefully sort of work on the rear bumper a bit to get this colour matched a bit better. The wing I also did, which is incredibly shiny at the moment. It's got a little bit of dust on it because I did it a few days ago. Yeah, but the I got pulled over by a police officer who was reasonable, knew his stuff. simply because of the number plates, as you do when you drive a sports car like this. And he decided to give my exhaust a decibel reading check. And there is a procedure to it that I know very well on how they have to do it, especially for Supras. So basically, they have to measure your exhaust on a 45-degree angle, about 500 mil away, or it is 500 mil away. There is a slight discrepancy between two of the legislations from Queensland Police and the Australian Legislative Site, but it's only 25 mil. It's 500 or 525. I don't think it'd matter that much. And with a 2JZ GT equipped car, they have this all set out for all models of car that are in Australia. They measure it from the time it starts making peak power from factory. So for these, it's 4,200 RPM, which is where they will test your car to rev it. And obviously I failed because 3-inch straight through. I got 104 decibels. The legal limit Australia-wide, I think the fines differ between states, but the legal limit is 90 for pretty much most cars. Like 90% of cars. I think classic muscle cars and motorbikes do have differences as well. So yeah, I failed the test. The cop was nice enough not to give me a fine and the maximum amount of time to rectify it, which was 2 months. So I came up with a fairly clever way to shut this thing up for $16 without actually going to an exhaust shop or putting mufflers in or anything crazy like that. So if you go to your local Bunnings, you can buy a sheet of galvanised steel, 1/2 mil thick, for about $16, and I got this with a pair of tin snips. And you basically need to block your exhaust. Now this might be a bit difficult for people that use a V-band system. However, I've got a 3-bolt flange, two 3-bolt flanges that you've seen. I'll show you shortly, but just where the dump pipe meets and it bends around, and then I've got another one there. And I've cut them out to size and slipped them in between like a gasket. And I've also put in here, just need to grab my torch very quickly, wherever that went. So my old slip-in silencer, which is the same size as my new one, but the new one was quite hard to fit to this, which is this guy here. So similar thing, just slides in the exhaust. It has a just a little bolt that you can affix through a hole in the end of the muffler, and it just sits in there, and it does shut it up quite a bit, but this one didn't fit quite as nicely as I wanted to, and I don't think it works quite as well as my old one because the tube here is about half the length of the one that's in there. But what I've also done while blocking up my exhaust with those 3-inch flanges is, if you look in here, I've added some of that galvanized steel to block about 3/4 of the exhaust coming out the back there, and also to shut it up because this slide didn't close completely. I just chucked in some plastic screw fittings just to block those two little holes on each side, which made a little bit of a difference, but I thought every bit counts. So I've done that, and I passed this procedure, I guess you could say. This method I've used to shut my exhaust up has worked, and I passed at 89 decibels, which is 1 decibel lower than the legal limit. But the thing that I did that shut it up the most after I put those two flanges in down the dump pipe there was I actually blocked off my intake here just after the air filter, and I'll show you that now. So I've just quickly removed the two hose clamps around this metal inner piece here, and you can see there how I've installed a basically block off to restrict the air getting into the turbo with a slight bend over the top, which I'm going to remove right now. And it worked excellent. So yeah, I'll jack the car up and take the exhaust ones out just to show you guys what I've done with those. That really helped as well. Yeah, so stand by. So if you can see here, what I've done is I've got two 3-bolt flanges in my exhaust, and if you look in the middle there, I've got a piece of that galvanized steel down here, and there's one up there. So I'll just pull them out now for you guys and show you what I've done. Oop, get some light on here. Alright, now I've got those guys out. What I did initially was I put this one in, there's 7mm holes, and it quietened it down a lot. Then I put this one in, and it wasn't quiet enough for my liking, with a few more less holes. But the issue was, when I put this one in, the car would start, but it would die. I was restricting the exhaust too much. So as soon as I put the intake sort of block off in, it ran. Doing this to your car will basically make it undrivable, pretty much, or very close to undrivable. However, I was lucky enough to get the officer to come to my house and test the car out the front. So yeah, that's all you really need to do. Yeah, so this is the whole setup. That was over the intake. It's a 4-inch intake. My exhaust is 3-inch, and then just had the silencer, some cheap, obviously dodgy, but this is not a permanent thing. This was just to pass the test. Just do that and you should be right. I decided to not go with the Alcon brakes. I'm going to go for a slightly cheaper option with the DBA slotted and drilled rotors, the 2-piece ones, and probably some Bendix Ultimate pads with some good brake fluid. And I'm going to just see how they go, because then it'll give me a bit of leeway to get some coilovers and still fix the power steering and front lip and get it back running better earlier on. So I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to how good the Auto Glim Rapid Aqua Wax is. Very lightly sprayed on and buff it off with a microfiber cloth. Just makes the car look so much better in the areas that I've, used it. So yeah, that's the latest with this for a while. Might be moving soon, so we'll get some more action clips and stuff, and I'll just do a little bit better with the editing. I haven't got any good camera gear yet, still on the phone, but we'll get there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Cheers.